It's not the size of your wrist that counts. You know what? Actually, no. I'm just gonna not even make the size comment for this one. So today we are taking a look at this right here, a 36 millimeter Smiths Everest PRS 25 Deluxe, on loan from a good buddy of mine, JP, from @Ghost and Crown. So we got a lot of ground to cover here with this one. What the hell is a Smiths? Is Rolex full of BS and straight stretching the truth in their marketing? Dimensions and specifications of this watch, my likes, dislikes, and then we'll discuss the fact this is a homage, but to what exactly and how good of a homage is it? We'll talk what your one up option is and your one down option, and whether or not this kills Project Explorer. Is this where I stop? Is this my 36 millimeter watch? Stay tuned to find out. Yo, what the heck is even that over there? Yo, that's a whole mountain.
Hey yo, Tenzing! I want to climb that mountain! Seems like a good idea to me! Okay, you know that a lot of people die doing that, right? And like, I went up there once before, and it didn't really go like we thought. Yeah. But we're gonna do it, and we're gonna market the crap out of some watches. Okay? All right, great, buddy. I'll see you. I'll see you at the staging area.
For Queen and Country, Sir Edmund Hillary and Sherpa Tenzing Norgay were going to master Mount Everest. For mission-critical tasks, timing is everything. And back in this day and age, mechanical wrist pieces were everything. And you needed to have a watch that could survive the altitude and temperature that Mount Everest was going to subject these two badasses to. Obviously, the question would be, what watches were they going to take and who made them? Well, our first contender is a British company named Smiths. And, of course, the next one really doesn't need a introduction. And if you can't figure out what brand I'm talking about simply by looking at this right here, then, well, you know what? Screw it. I'll make it easy. It's Rolex. Yep, those are your two options for this expedition. And thus, one of the great horological watch nerd battles was born. Who really made it to the top? Smiths or Rolex? Rolex or Smiths? Now, both companies obviously wanted their name on top of the mountain. So, both helped provide funding or materials of some type or manner to this expedition. Rolex had spent a lot of time on other attempts to master the mountain, and Sherpa Tenzing Norgay had a Rolex on a couple of his previous attempts to master the mountain. So Rolex was Even the great mountain of Everest was familiar with Rolex. So as for how watches were allocated, who got what, this is where things kind of get a little muddied. And keep in mind, I'm not going to tell you which one made it to the top because I'm not trying to get blasted in the comment section here. And I probably will anyway. But there's a lot of different ways you could look at this, I guess. We're not sure who ended up getting what watch and who was wearing what watch as they went up. Naturally, both companies advertised the crap out of this accomplishment and tacked their names on it. So, look, I would go ahead and say that both of these watches were probably present for this expedition, and I like to believe that Sir Edmund Hillary was rocking a Smiths and Sherpa Norgay was wearing a Rolex. Now here's the thing with Rolex. It was a Oyster Perpetual that would have been taken up, or at least would have been issued to the team, and not a Explorer. The key thing to understand about the Rolex Explorer is that it was a watch that was built with the lessons learned of this expedition, and is more so to commemorate that accomplishment, and now sets the precedence for the finalized version of what a mountaineer's watch by Rolex is. So I get a case diameter of 35.6, a lug to lug of 43.7, thickness of 11.1, and a 20 mil lug width, which is excellent for your strap options. So for your 325 pounds, and yep, I'm gonna keep it at pounds because this is a British watch, you are gonna be getting 316L stainless steel, anti-magnetism, you're getting water resistance up to 100 meters, screw down case back, screw down crown, and drilled lug holes. So the only complaint that I could muster is maybe that there could be some more micro adjust on the bracelet, but I mean, there was enough for my 6.5 inch wrist to be kind of accommodated as it expanded and contrasted throughout the day. But hey, maybe 5 more would have been, or a total of 5 would have been nice. But honestly, I'm just clutching at straws here, and trust me, I can complain. So it's not that I'm having a hard time coming up with stuff, it's just I'm having a hard time justifying these complaints. The other ones that I have are really just down to personal taste, and that involves the type of homage this is. Specifically, I don't think I would have chosen the gilt dial as personal taste. And then there's some more elements of the homage that need to be discussed coming up. So the most astute of you will have noticed that I didn't say anything positive yet. Well, that's because there is a lot of positive to think about here. One, I was not certain if I was going to like 36 mil watch, and that's why I asked JP to let me borrow this watch so I could figure out if the Explorer was something I really wanted on my wrist. And I ended up breaking my rule of no analog watches while doing my military duties. And I had a light paperwork day, so I decided to wear this in uniform. And I found the smaller size, one, didn't affect me putting on my gear or anything like that, didn't get bound up on my uniform. And two, it was like I was able to forget that it was there and only call upon it when needed. And when I needed it to tell time, I was actually able to tell time relatively quickly with it, which is one of my complaints about analog watches. Yeah, you guys might be better at telling time on analog watches than I am, but digital is always faster for my pea brain. So I never really understood why there were only 3 numerals on this dial. Why the hell not just have all the numerals that you possibly could imagine? The full 24-hour scale. I discovered that when you have a bunch of numbers like on a Bulova military watch or a Hamilton field khaki, there's just so much going on the dial that for me, I struggle with it. My eyes bounce around at all the great things there are to look at. This dial is divided into quarters, from your 12 triangle to your 3 to your 6 to your 9. It's divided into quarters. And then within those quarters, you have further divisions that, one, doesn't give my eye too much to be bouncing to admire, but also I'm able to quickly break down the time into halves and quarters that is easier for my brain to process.
So polishing cloth is absolutely going to be necessary for this because you're high polished. Overall, you're going to be attracting scratches and that sucks. You're going to get smudges like crazy. So if that bugs you, well, there's nothing I can do for you. However, for the money, this is, I think it's well worth the money. It's a solid construction. You have solid end links, solid links. You have a really good milled clasp with a solid enough click. The loom is good. It's nothing overpowering, which is in keeping to what this is a homage to. Movement is reliable enough. You do get these faux rivets, which might irritate some people, but you get screw links, which is very nice.
No. And here is what I think this is a homage to. And it's a Rolex Explorer 1016 gilt dial, gilt hands. And why this one in particular? Well, this is the Smiths Deluxe, so you do get the gilt hands and dial. So, hey, it matches up, right? Markers are printed on, which gives a very similar effect as to the dial of this original watch. So, yes, this is a homage watch. However, I would say it's a good homage, or a homage that I personally have no moral issues with, in that it does its own thing and it improves upon the original design. Yeah, you get the look of a very hard to obtain Rolex, but you get sapphire glass, you get screw links, solid end links. You also get a milled clasp. Now, here comes my problem with this being a homage. Most people would not find Smiths because of their accomplishment with Everest, because it's just not talked about much. Chances are people found Smiths by searching alternatives to the Rolex Explorer. And what kind of disappoints me about this watch is that Smiths had to make a homage to the Rolex Explorer, which in a sense kind of almost yields to the Rolex's accomplishments. It almost yields the victory to Rolex, because it would, to me at least, imply that they couldn't sell a Smiths watch very successfully without it looking like a Rolex. Now, a lot of people will get fired up about this and say, oh, well, I love Smiths because of the story. That's why I bought the watch. That might be true, but if you really loved Smiths and you really loved their accomplishment in the story,
then you wouldn't buy the Smiths Everest. You would buy the Smiths Everest Expedition, which is in itself a homage to the actual Smiths watch that went up. That stands on its own, unlike this Smiths Everest that has to homage a Rolex. So if I was gonna reach about one rung or so below the price point of the Smiths, I would find the Seiko Dress KX. The particular one that I have, I was able to acquire for about 130 bucks. The only downside for this, as far as a alternative to the Smiths, is the size. This comes in at 40 mil. So if you were trying to get the Smiths, or really the Rolex Explorer feel at 36 mil, this would not help you achieve that. So unlike the Seiko, this Zen 556A is a watch that I do not have experience with, but looking at it online seems like a pretty good option. Retail, I think you can pick these up for about $1,300. And unlike with the Seiko, we kind of get a little closer to that Rolex Smiths size frame of 36 mil. This particular watch sits around 38.5 millimeters. Is this it? Did JP just save me $7,000? Well, I have two criteria I've set forth for myself when it comes to any sort of budget or homage style watch. First of which being, does the watch answer a question I have about other watches or the hobby in general? And the answer to that is yes. My worries were that I was not going to enjoy a 36 mil steel sports watch. And it turns out I freaking love it. This is perfect. I also wasn't so sure if I'd enjoy the Mercedes handset or the 369 dial layout. And one, handset doesn't bother me. 369 is outstanding. Our second criteria is buy the watch if you genuinely love it. This is where the Smiths falls short for me. I don't really like it because I'm not after a 1016. I'm after the latest and greatest iteration of Rolex's mountaineering watch. The printed hour markers and the gilt dial give me a more dressier watch feel than the modern Rolex Explorer gives me. So at the end of the day, I really enjoyed my time with the Smiths. And if for some reason I absolutely cannot get my hands on a modern Explorer or a older model, then yes, this would be a good alternative. However, I'm committed and I'm gonna climb this mountain. I've been getting a lot of positive notes and words of support and encouragement from the community, and that's really great. And I really hope you enjoy the content I'm putting out. I really enjoy the editing and the filming aspect. This has been Project Explorer. Always ready, always there. Minuteman out.